Hello everyone and welcome back to Hellstormwargaming. I hope you're all having a fantastic day and thank you very much for tuning into this video. Now recently I've been getting into 3D printing. I recently got into resin printing. I've done a couple of videos. I bought an Elegoo Saturn, which is a resin 3D printer, and I filmed a review for that and put a video out. The guys who make the Elegoo Saturn got in touch and they sent me a Mars Pro 2 to review. So I kind of bought a printer and then I ended up with two straight away. Well, the guys over at 3D Board Game Accessories who actually 3D print 40k accessories and terrain for Warhammer 40,000. Actually, I'm a really big fan of their, I've got hundreds of their squad markers because they're really good. They actually sponsored the channel and they sent me some files that I could print myself, and I said to them that they would look really good. They had some really awesome terrain pieces and I was like, well, I only have a resin printer and I don't really want to print loads of terrain with a resin printer. So they decided to send me a Creality CR-6 SE
printers.
FDM filament printing or plastic print. So they are the sponsors of this video, but today we're going to be unboxing this and printing out some cool stuff and building it up. I'm very excited to open this up and build it, so thank you very much to them. We'll hear a bit more about 3D Board Game Accessories in a little while. But otherwise, let's open up a brand new 3D printer once again. I was a bit cheeky. I opened this up already because it came to my house and I didn't realise that they'd sent it to me. So I have already opened the top, so I've kind of seen inside. However, we're reopening it. I've taped it back up so it still counts, right? It still counts, definitely still counts. So this is what it looks like on the inside. So you get some paperwork, you get after sales service card, keep all of that, get a manual. I'm definitely going to need that. So what I've found, the main difference between this printer and any other resin printer I've had is you have to build it. So we'll see how this goes. We get a nice roll of white filament. I've actually ordered some filament as well. The guys over at 3D Board Game Accessories suggested some Sunlu PLA, so I bought some of that, some grey. We've got some white filament as well. The touch screen, so this is how you can control it. We have some screws, etc. Got a handle. Power cable, I think it's the spool holder. Yeah, so that's the spool holder, so you can put that on either side, I reckon, I don't know. Nice, and then we get the actual printer. So, is this all one piece? I think it is. So you get the actual print arm. So you have this is the nozzle, this is the extruder, and then we have the bed. And there we go, that is the bulk of the printer, the rest of it. Okay, is there anything else in here? I don't think there is, so I can go. Yeet. And that's it, that's the 3D printing. What I will say is, I think I'm a little bit spoiled. There's no tools, which I think is a little bit of a shame. I can get some, but I think a little cheap Allen key or something like that would have been a nice addition. Obviously what you get included is you get the manual, you get the bed, which is the bulk of the machine. This is where your controls are, etc. You get the other axis, you get X and Y axis. You get your touch screen, you get your power supply, you get some screws, you get some PLA, and you get a holder. So this is, I'm gonna have to build this now, so I'm gonna do a bit of time lapse. I'm gonna speed it up. I'm just gonna go through the instructions and just build it as it says. I don't have a great deal of hands-on experience with FDM printing, so I'm basically gonna be following the manual. I'm sure there's loads of tuning and tweaking you can do, but if you have any suggestions for this type of printer, then do let us know down in the comments. Maybe we can get a bit of conversation going and we can make everyone print fantastic stuff. So let's build it. So whilst I build this in super speed, it's probably a great time to tell you about today's sponsor, 3D Board Game Accessories. Now, if you've been with the channel for the past few months, you'll have heard this company before. 3D Board Game Accessories make a range of great products for Warhammer 40k. I dropped onto this company through buying all of their squad markers. I literally have hundreds of these and they are absolutely amazing. They also sell a whole bunch of other stuff, such as wound markers, objective markers, rulers. Now, you're probably asking me, you're probably saying, hey Mikey, what about if I already have a 3D printer and I don't want to buy 3D printed parts? Well, they actually sell their own STL files, so you can build your own buildings at home. You can download them and you can print them at home yourself. So they sell a whole range of stuff. It's very, very cheap. So they currently have their late pledge Kickstarter from Damocles Modular Buildings, which has loads of buildings that have loads of bases, has cool tanks and stuff like in there included as well. For only €25 for such a vast, complex system where you can print pretty much anything you like is absolutely insane. You're probably going to see some of these files on the channel as well, because I've I've got some myself. So if you are interested, then check out the STL files. They're perfect for FDM printing and they are designed to be printed really quick. If you don't have a printer, they still have a massive range. You can actually buy these buildings, build and paint yourself. They are really, really cheap, really high quality in my opinion for the price you pay. Really, really cheap to buy. If you're looking for something a little bit more abstract, a little bit less industrial, they also have, let's say, Tyranid themed terrain bundles that you can buy. Again, such a cheap price, really high quality. I'm actually painting some of this myself. I really, really like it. So make sure you use the link in the description if you want anything and use the code Hellstorm at the checkout to get 10% off. And it's already really cheap. So 10% off in addition is absolutely insane. As far as I'm aware, they have more plans in the works for more STL for people with 3D printers at home, so make sure you keep an eye out on things. Thank you to 3D Board Game Accessories for sponsoring this video and sponsoring us throughout the past, and thank you once again for this printer so we can bring videos like this to you. That's a good sign. I did complain that there were no tools, but I only ended up needing a 3 and a 4mm Allen key, and then a pair of pliers when I dropped the nut in. And it like flipped over the wrong way for the handle. But overall it took me about 15 minutes to build, so it wasn't too bad. Everything was pretty clear. All the wires are kind of like already in place. You just need to like untape them and stick them in. I've actually reused the tape in a lot of places to like hold the wires back down. But now we're going to just go through and work out what the hell we have to do now. I think it's leveling the platform. So select level to automatically level. So auto leveling. Okay. It looks like that has started to level itself. So every printer I've ever worked with for FDM, it's always been manual leveling. So this is quite nice. Living a print bread is so frustrating. Okay. Not sure why that happened. Time to do some research, because that shouldn't be happening. It's like the strain gauge doesn't know where the bed is. It doesn't know that it's because essentially when the nozzle hits the bed, this pushes up and it's supposed to bend it so it knows. It's like it just doesn't know. So I'm gonna have to go look into this. So hopefully I'll be back with a solution soon. It's been about an hour since I ran into that issue, and I worked it out. On this manual, I'd actually missed one. So there's an opto coupling sensor here. So essentially, when it was going down, it doesn't know where, there's no reference to where the bed is supposed to be. So I was just pile driving it into the bed. So it was totally my fault. That's why it broke. So now we can actually level it. I did just do it, but we're gonna level it again. And go. Also, my other complaint was I couldn't find any tools. The reason I found that the optocoupler was actually disconnected is because I watched another video to try and find the issue, and I realised that there's a little drawer here which is just full of tools, including the SD card, including Allen keys that I was complaining about. So it's totally my fault. So now we've actually leveled it, we can go a bit further. Prepare, preheat PLA. Okay, then we need to put the filament on. So we're just going to use the included white PLA, and then we're going to feed it through the filament sensor. So we'll feed that through there, and then straight through into there. Okay, so we have to undo this first. That's to stop it going through. And then I'll push that all the way through to the nozzle. You can just see whereabouts it is. That looks like it's coming out, so we'll lock that in place. Then we can start printing. So I'm kind of hoping that there's a model included on the card. Bearing in mind the SD card goes in upside down. There's nothing on the card. So then we're going to open the USB drive, and it has the software already included. So that looks like that's all installed. Load the file. Okay, so we don't have a Benchy. We're gonna have to download Benchy. There we go. We got a Benchy. 3 hours and 41 minutes. Okay. Nice. We got a Benchy code. Okay, let's go. Let's do this. So we'll click that and we'll press print. I'm so excited. That took so long. I've been doing this for maybe 2 hours. And so that's kind of where the fun started, but also started to drift off at the same time. And the reason for that is, here's the Benchy. We got the Benchy finished. This is Benchy number 1. I've had the printer a few days now. I'm going to tell you about how it went for me. So the first Benchy came out okay. I mean, it didn't fail as the very first print, which was very impressive in my opinion. But we had a lot of stringing, which is kind of like a common problem with 3D printing, with FDM printing particularly because of the way it's done. But there's also like additional plastic, like little blobs that have appeared, and I think this is something to do with the retract when the axis moves up on the Z-axis, and the stringing is caused due to retraction. So as I kind of said at the start of the video, I'm an amateur when it comes to FDM printing, but I didn't want to just come on a video and say, look at my Benchy, look how cool it is, and not fix the clear issues that I've got with the printer. So I wasn't sure initially what the issues were. I didn't know about retraction and stuff like that. So I basically leveled the bed, I tightened everything up and printed it again, and pretty much got the same results, barring a little bit less stringing. So I watched a few videos, as you do, you know. My videos are basically a summary of what videos I've watched that week. And I dropped onto Teaching Tech, who I've watched a few times now, and he's got a great like guide. It's like a how to calibrate your 3D printer, like start to finish, step by step, which I thought was really, really good. So I kind of went through it. I did all the testing pieces. So I did the main calibration cube first, kind of make sure all your axes are like kind of like, again, I'm an amateur, so I'm just going to paraphrase. This kind of shows if there's any drooping or anything like that, and it makes sure you've got nice square corners, and it makes sure you've got nice layer lines, and it makes sure you've got a decent infill on the top to make sure you actually finish your piece okay. This little test tells you how much flow is coming out of the nozzle, so if you're extruding too much plastic, you won't get very accurate corners, and you won't get accurate thickness. So this is supposed to be 0.4 mil, and it is, so that was okay. And then this one, again, it tests the retraction. So what it does, it essentially it moves across here and then prints, and if you get stringing, that's because there's plastic that's being extruded, or is at least in the nozzle, and is still coming out when the nozzle moves across. So you kind of like use this and you set different settings so you can actually get a good view of what works for you and what doesn't. But then I did it again and got it perfect, which I was really happy with. So this initial test was 1 to 6 mil retract distance, and then 40 millisecond speed. Then this one afterwards was 50 millimeters, but it was 3 to 4.6 mil. So obviously it's quite a lot cleaner. So I ended up dropping on 4.6 mil and staying there. And then I did a speed test. So this is 4.6 mil, but it's between 10 and 60 millimeters per second for the retraction speed. And I couldn't really see a difference, so I kind of just stayed at 50. I'm sure maybe someone else might have a more trained eye who can tell me the difference. So once I'd done that, I was like, okay, the retract's good. We've got stringing on this one. We don't have stringing on this one. We're off to a good start. And then this one is kind of like, this is a heat test. So you want to make sure that you are heating the plastic enough that it actually comes out the nozzle, but not heating it too much that it starts to droop. So again, I couldn't really see a difference on this test either. So I kind of just stuck with 190 because I thought that was okay. And I thought, right, okay, to me, I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this. So my printer must be okay. So I printed a third Benchy, as you do. And it's better than the first one, but it's not great. There's still stringing, there's still little extra bits of plastic, but it is better overall. So I was like, okay, I've made a difference. But for some reason, it's not perfect, and I want it to be perfect before I'm done. So I know a lot that the problem is with 3D printing is you have lots of different factors to analyze. And one thing I did see was that the gantry, or essentially the arm that's going across the printer, can sometimes be out of alignment because you have a printer that automatically levels itself, but it's not solid when it's sent to you. Like the arms could technically move. So I actually measured it, and I realized that my gantry was like ever so slight at an angle, which is very annoying because you spend all this time trying to calibrate your printer and you realize it's something that's basically happened in the post that could damage it. So what you have to do is you have to loosen off one of the axis rods, and you have to measure, and you have to twist one of them without the belt moving, and you have to like manually twist it so it's level with the bed itself, and then re-level it, and then hopefully that should fix all your issues. So I did that, and then I also saw that there's a new firmware update for the printer, so I actually updated it, which is really easy. But the problem was after I updated it, it was all in Chinese. And I don't know about you, but I can't read Chinese. And it turns out that when you update the firmware, you also have to flash the screen, or essentially update the screen as well. And to do this, you have to take the screen casing off, you have to disconnect it, you have to plug in a new card that isn't provided, a micro SD card, not just an SD card. You have to plug that into the screen, and then turn the machine on so the screen can get powered so it can be updated. And then you have to make sure the card's formatted to the correct format so the screen can actually read it. And basically what I'm saying is, to do all these things as a consumer, yeah, I mean, I was gifted this printer, not by the company, by someone else. They gifted it to me and I thought I'd make a review. But as a consumer, I think that's a little bit of a faff, in my opinion. The gantry I can kind of live with, because like it should be level. That's happened in shipping basically, or maybe in manufacturing, and I've sorted that. Updating the firmware is fine. Having to flash the screen, so I have to like take the screen off and take all the casing off and then find a card myself. I couldn't find an SD card. I had to go rummaging for one, because people don't really use them anymore. You had to go rummaging for one, then I found it, then I had to make sure it's the right format, then I had to find the right software, then I had to update it. In my opinion, I shouldn't have to do that as a consumer. It should just be a case of plugging the firmware in off the website, and then that's it. I don't know why it's sending the machines into Chinese. I'm not the only person who's had that issue. But, however, it happened. We've sorted it. And then I thought, right, okay, final thing I'm going to change. I know you're not supposed to change everything all at the same time, but I've tried with the other PLA, not the one that came with it, the Sunlu Grey that was suggested to me, and we have a better benchy. So there's ever so minor stringing, and there's a little bit of extra material where there shouldn't be, but this is so much better than that first one. And I'm not sure what did it. I don't know if it was the firmware, I don't know if it was the gantry, I don't know. However, we have a benchy that I'm happy with to carry on printing. So, okay, so we've done all the calibration, in my opinion. We've got a benchy. So what was the next best thing to do? Well, obviously it was to do something a little bit bigger, but not too big. So I should try to print the Mandalorian, the really nice support-free Mandalorian. And I don't know anything about my slicer, so I sliced it all wrong. The support-free Mandalorian is supposed to be completely hollow, but you don't need to support it, it just prints fine. And I printed the first one with infill by accident, and it broke, it fell off. We ended up with a set of legs, which was awfully annoying. So then I looked more into it. I looked more into the slicer settings and kind of like looked what the person who had made the file. I'll leave a link in the description to all the files I used today. So I looked at what they did and then I copied the settings and tried again. But this time we got a lot further. We got to here and it had fallen off. I think I left this one overnight. So it had fallen off and it just not worked. So basically what has happened, it's got to this point and then it's fallen over and then printed for a good few hours after that. So we had a big noodle mess. So we got some more legs that didn't work. There's something going wrong here. Maybe it's this file in particular. I'm going to try one of the remixed ones, try and play with the slicer settings again and try to get that to work. We tried the other pose and that didn't work either. That actually failed much sooner. I was getting a bit annoyed at this point because I just wasn't sure what was going on. I was like, why isn't it printing? So I was like, okay, I just need to make sure there's other things that can be printed. So I printed some other stuff from our friends at 3D Board Game Accessories. I actually printed these little D6 wound counters, which are for like putting next to your model so you know how many wounds they've got. They fit like a little 12mm, I think it's 12mm this dice. So I printed a whole bunch of these. I've got like a whole little bunch and they came out great. These printed in like an hour or so, I think. Bases as well. So this is one of the 32mm industrial bases and this came out great. I was really chuffed with this. I had a little bit of what we call elephant's foot, but the detail on top I was really happy with. It was really, really nice. And then I started printing one of the crates that they make, and you can actually buy these. I printed just the door. So I didn't print this one, but this is kind of like what it makes. So it's like 2 doors, a little support frame, and then 3 walls. It makes like a full-size crate for games of Warhammer 40k. So I was really chuffed with the quality of this. So what was the next thing to do? Everyone said to Mikey. And Mikey said, why don't I print another Mandalorian? Because that will go well. And I printed it overnight. And I came downstairs. And I was greeted with this. Just a noodle mess. So I took a picture and went on Twitter. Because I'm fed up of having half leg. But I was left with another set of legs. So basically, the problem I've got is not the calibration, it's the bed adhesion. So I found one more model and it was a little bit different. I printed a little bit smaller, but we found the original support-free Mandalorian and we got him to print in all his glory with the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda in it printed. And I will say this is an excellent print. It is a lovely model and it printed perfectly. First time this one. And I think the reason for this one is because like these large ones, this one's a slightly different pose, but it's essentially the same model. But the only adhesion you've got is the feet here, so like 2 small sections, and you have to rely on this holding to the printer for like 12 hours while it prints, and it's got to print the entire thing just on those feet. Whereas this one, again, it's the same miniature, but not only does it have the 2 feet, but it's got the entire nameplate, and it's got little baby Yoda to like help adhere to the build plate. So this one printed fine, and because I've not printed with the plastic printer in the past 5 years, and I'm just really astounded by the quality of this. I was really chuffed, and I don't know if that was just because it came out so well, or it's because I'd tried so many times, way more times than I probably should have, just to try and get a Mandalorian figure for this video. But yeah, so overall the model is really nice, and I got it to stick. I don't know if it's going to make the video, but this evening, which is basically Thursday night, the night before this video, I'm going to print one of those, but I'm going to add a brim. And a brim is like essentially like a large piece of plastic that goes around the outside of where your model's supposed to be, and it's kind of like a big suction cup, and that's the idea of it, is to kind of help adhere the model to the bed. The thing is with me is I'm not a defeatist person, and maybe I should have just printed something else that was a lot easier, but I didn't. I persevered, and we have a Mandalorian for my desk. So what can I say? FDM printing. Now again, I've done FDM printing in the past, and I've recently got into resin printing, which is probably the less popular type of printing in my opinion. From what I've seen, FDM printing way more popular than resin printing or SLA printing. However, that actually surprises me with a bit more hands-on experience, because what I found is that FDM printing is a lot cheaper. It's cheaper to get into most of the time. I mean, you could get a Mars printer for like £100 on Black Friday, which is like insane. I think it's cheaper to buy a machine, it's cheaper to buy material, and overall it's a lot safer because you've got a heater and some axis. You haven't got to deal with cleaning the print, you've got to cure the print, etc. like that. So overall the end product is a lot easier and a lot quicker to have. But in my opinion, I had to do so much faff. Only now am I starting to enjoy FDM printing. Now I have one model that will finally work. And I don't speak for the masses. I know my opinion is kind of like very much down to my own experience, but I was getting really frustrated with this printer for a number of reasons. Some of it my own fault. The fact that I had to like take the screen off and update it that way was just really ticked me off, probably because I was already so frustrated with the printer at that point. But at the end of the day, I think what I want to say is what you have to remember with 3D printing, it's not something, because a lot of the people who watch my videos play 40k. You know, 3D printing is kind of like a thing that's on the rise a lot more now. I personally don't print models, but people do print models for the game, which I think is really bad. Probably shouldn't do it. But a lot of people print terrain, or they print stuff for D&D, like dungeon tiles or characters and stuff that you just can't buy off the shelf, which is totally fine. But what I want to say is that 3D printing is a hobby in itself that's very involved, and once you've figured that out, you can make some amazing things for your other hobbies like Warhammer, D&D, etc. I think the main thing to take away is I don't want people to watch my video and be like, oh, that's really easy, I'll just get into that, I'll just go buy a printer, and then get ticked off with it like I did, and then end up like feeling like they're wasting the money or something like that. So if you are interested in 3D printing, fantastic, but make sure you do more research than I did for these type of printers. I want to say thank you very much for watching this video. I do hope you gained something from it, or enjoyed it, or you just enjoyed watching a man get pissed off with 3 motors and a heater. Overall, I think I'm going to get better with this printer. I wouldn't recommend it to a total noob. If a total noob was going to get into 3D printing, I'd probably recommend a resin one, just because there's a lot less going on. And again, that's just totally from my own experience. But do let me know what you thought of this video. Thank you once again to 3D Board Game Accessories for sponsoring this video and sending the printer. Without them, I wouldn't be able to make this video. So thank you very much to them. Make sure you check out the link in the description. Obviously, make sure you use the code Hellstorm at checkout to get that fat discount as well, and it obviously helps out the channel massively. If you enjoyed these type of videos, then do consider liking and subscribing. I have a new video coming out on Sunday as well, which is going to be really fun, which is all just about 3D printing and how you can use it, especially with this time of year. It's going to be really good. I can't wait to show you. I'm really excited for that one, so make sure you do subscribe and turn notifications on so you know when it comes out. It's coming out at 10 AM on Sunday morning, so thank you once again for you guys watching at home. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'd love to hear it, but otherwise, have a great day. I love you all. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.